Hello, welcome. Namaste. I am Patty Markham Peterson, and this is Light, Laughter, and Latte on Oneness Talk Radio, Oneness Talk Radio YouTube, Oneness Talk Radio Facebook Live. Thank you. Thank you for connecting and being with me today. As your host today, I wanted to talk a little bit and bring in a couple of guests, a dynamic duo, Faren Peterson and Jordan Burma, who are licensed professional therapists and art therapists. And I had several experiences with these two, but particularly this last winter while I was in Phoenix. I was fortunate to spend my winter January till just yesterday in sunny, warm Phoenix, away from my upper Michigan home. And I had a profound experience in a open studio group with Faren and Jordan. And as a healer myself, I am a medical intuitive, a quantum healer, a transformational life and spiritual coach. I do quantum readings and a myriad of holistic healings. And so I've been doing healing on myself and with others for a couple decades now. And so to go into this group, this art group with the art therapists, I was a little like, well, it'll be fun, but I was amazed at what all came forward for me as another layer of being, we'll share more in the interview here, but for me being vulnerable and sharing some of that through the expression of art. And Faren and Jordan will share how you can get to the root of healing and the types of people that find support and help with them, and the group sessions that they offer where people from around the world join them, and how many success stories that we can share. And so I will bring Faren and Jordan in, and I'd love for you to join our chat, and you can put a question in the chat, and their links will also be with this show below or above, wherever it's showing up, and you can reach out to them. And here they are, Jordan and Faren. Welcome to Light, Laughter, and Lattes, Oneness Talk Radio. We're delighted to share some time with you. And so I would like you each to say who you are and a short version of how you ended up in this very specific field that isn't very well known, according to some of my experience. Because people always say, what is that? And how you ended up there.
You want to start off?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I've always been creative in my life.
And which one are you? Are you Jordan or Faren?
Thank you. I'm actually really good at skipping that often. I am Faren Peterson, and thank you for having us. This is Jordan. And we met in grad school, but each of our journeys to get there were a little bit winding. Ultimately, for myself, I was always drawn to creative pursuits, creativity, right? Craftiness. And in high school, I spent the first hour of my day every day in art class in 11th and 12th grade. And it was the best start to my day. And then going into college, just got into the what should I do? What is respectable? What is appropriate? What it makes you money? All those things. So I got kind of off track a little bit, tried a few things. And then when researching that social work wasn't for me, what is a little bit more connected in the same working with people, working with art, working in the field of psychology. So then I found art.
You were in college when you started to discover that was a field of study?
Yeah, I didn't even know it existed until I was in undergraduate school.
In undergraduate school.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. No one else told me about it. People weren't doing it. They were just like counselors or marriage and family counselors, right?
Right.
And all those masters of social work. So I didn't know anybody in my life who did it.
Yeah, I didn't
and then I went there to Chicago to the Art Institute, and I ran into Jordan.
And as soon as they met, I was fortunate enough to come to Chicago and see the two, and I knew right away that she was soul family. So
yes,
it's really beautiful how, the universe, how everything is so perfect.
We bonded over our Finnish roots. That was what pulled us together.
Yes, that's it. And we're going to get to that. I mean, we both have Finnish roots, and Jordan grew up in the Chicago area, right? Or
yes.
And Farron comes from an area where I am from Upper Michigan that is rich in Finnish roots. So to come and meet somebody at the Institute of Art.
Yeah.
What's it called?
College across the country.
School of the Art Institute. Yeah.
Right. The School of the Art Institute, to meet another Finlander is fantastic. So I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Jordan. Please share how you got there.
I'm Jordan, also a Finlander, but my grandpa did live up in the UP on Sugar Island. So we've been up there a lot.
Yeah.
So same thing. I just always was creative. I feel so lucky that my creative juices were never turned off by like a bad art class or feeling inadequate with it. So I feel really lucky that I carried that with me into adulthood, because I know so many people get cut off from that, unfortunately. But so I really focused on photography in high school. A lot of high school I did not like, but what got me through was being able to go to photography every day and being
creative parts.
Yeah. And so then I decided to do that in college. And just, I loved school. I got to just fully be in the art studio. I had some like ups and downs in college. And so I really used my art degree while I was there to work through a lot of those things, one being a really abusive relationship that ended really poorly. And so that was my first really, really powerful moment of like, wow, art is really healing. Like I did go to therapy, I did go to groups, but that like just having my own outlet like that was just so helpful. And I was like, everyone needs something like this. And meanwhile, I'm like, have this other track in my life where I'm volunteering, I'm tutoring kids, I'm doing Big Brothers Big Sisters, I'm doing else. After college, I didn't know really what I wanted to do. So I did AmeriCorps for a year, which is like the Peace Corps, but just for the US. And I worked with at-risk youth, and I started
You had a very service-oriented heart. Always.
Yeah, since a young age. Yeah. And always doing art. So it's like I have these two tracks going on that I didn't really recognize until I was in AmeriCorps when I started a photo program. I was going to like teach them photography, like technical skills.
Yes.
But it turned into just more of an expressive group with all girls, and it was so powerful. But I felt like Farron, like, well, I got this degree in photography, so I should try to do something with it.
Was that what your undergrad was in?
Yeah, in photography.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then I was like, you know what? I put all this time in my photography. I should try to do something with photography. So I'm doing something with photography. Meanwhile, on the side, I'm volunteering, and I'm like, okay, I really just need to like put these two things together. And so I started researching art therapy schools, and I only applied to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I was like, I have to go here. This is the only school I'm going to. And luckily I got in, and Farron was there. And the first week we just hit it off, and we always said, we're going to start something together one day.
Oh, you did say that from way back when you were there. Okay, fantastic. Because I know that since you graduated from grad school, that you've both lived in different areas and been learning and growing through different avenues or areas of counseling, therapy. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And community mental health, and really broad.
I was in like residentials and hospital settings.
Okay. Yes. And from what I know in my personal life and how I guide my clients is that we look at everything that we've done in our life and, okay, what were the positive gift, skills, and talents that I developed, or these positive, we call them spiritual qualities I developed in myself by every experience, right? And I definitely, as a nurse too, tried so many different areas. And I kept bouncing around, and yet each one was so pivotal in giving me some area of knowledge, clarity. Sometimes I just said, okay, I'm clear. That's not what I want to do, right?
Definitely happens.
Yes. And so you both now ended up in the same town.
Yes.
Right? They're both currently in Phoenix, Arizona, and getting to bring something forward and create what you have been talking about with added wisdom and clarity behind it, right?
Yeah.
And you're still also working as counselors.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When art therapy is a little bit confusing. People don't always realize you are a licensed professional counselor still, like a licensed mental health professional. So we do individually work with clients and contract with companies and as well.
Yeah, and do talk therapy when
Together.
necessary.
Yeah.
With art too.
So yes, you're very, very skilled and qualified, and I think that's very important. I know for myself, being a medical intuitive and energy healer, people always feel more confident in me when they know I have a medical background.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely understand anatomy and physiology, and that's been very, very, very helpful in being where I am today. All of those skills to get to where I am today, to having the career I love. So I'm so happy to hear that for both of you. And now, perhaps this is where you can say, share now. I mentioned in the intro of I came to a group. Okay, so you two got clear on what it is you want to offer by all that you had been through. And what is that now?
So I think because we've been in so many settings doing art therapy, both individually and in groups, they're both so powerful, but there's something about the group setting that just brings it to another level of connection. And when we talk about self-compassion, this like common humanity piece of like, I'm not alone in my struggles. Like so many people struggling with their mental health think like something's wrong with me. No one else feels this way. And then they come to a group and that like goes away initially. They're like, oh, other people feel this way. And then having the added layer of art forces people into this beautiful vulnerability state, like art.
Word I mentioned, yes.
Yeah.
Please reiterate here.
Right? When we talk, we can talk around things, right? We can intellectualize, but when we're making art, it's coming from like that primitive part of our brain. So more of like the back to forward processing versus like overthinking something. And people get very surprised about what comes up in their art because we're like getting straight at those emotions and straight at those struggles. But then you have this piece of art to contain that. Whereas when you're talking about it, it can just be like, well, now what do I do? It's like all over the place. So, I mean, that's just a little bit my feel.
Yes, I found it extremely powerful in what translated onto the paper for me, onto the drawing, whatever. And then how my intuition seemed to come forward. This part of me I knew was, from my inner self. And so perhaps, Farron, you want to share a little bit about that? How are
in the process, that's what you're saying. It as it pulls from not just our unconscious or our subconscious, we also believe that it's it's from a soul level too, right? Our intuition can speak to us through the art, and Jordan is a facilitator of the open studio process, trained facilitator from the Open Studio facility in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yes, in Chicago. And so it's a process that is more, I say it has these safe, comforting guidelines.
I really appreciated that. It was very different from somebody, I've been in groups, I run groups, and to be, each one of us to share our piece, whatever. We all started with an intention, right? What did we want to work on in the group?
Yes.
And then to share our piece, and you don't have to say anything if you don't want, because we always hear people say, I don't want to be, forefront. And yet, and not to, the part about not making comments and just to be in that vulnerable, safe space was powerful.
Yes. Yeah. We've had people say that that's their favorite part, is not just the creating and their own witness writing, but when they share. So when you read exactly what you had on the page and you show exactly what you created, it's that you're just being witnessed. You're just being held, and that's it. And nobody says anything.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Explain yourself. Like I feel like in life we're always feeling like we have to explain ourselves. Like you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to worry about what anyone's going to say about your art or your writing, but everyone's just really there to hold that space, which I think when we're tapping into our intuition, I think people get scared to do that because then they're like, well, what do I do at this end? But the open studio process really sets up this structure that helps like hold it. So I think people are a little bit more willing to go there. And I think just creating art in front of people is vulnerable. So like, even if you don't end up sharing anything, like you're still being vulnerable in the moment.
And a part of the energy of the group, right? Yeah. That too, you're going to, every time we're in a group, everybody's energy contributes. And so we're a part of that to whatever degree we want to be conscious of it. And I really recognize that the beautiful synergy between the women that were there. Many of us shared a certain theme.
Yes.
And that was all separate, right? How that happens. We were all separately just thinking about what did I want to work on, and one of mine was being more vulnerable, and then to see that mirrored. So that I think relates to a lot of people in life. Trust where you end up, and when they are safe settings to be who you are, to go walk through that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear that people work through in that process.
Mm-hmm. And letting go of control. How about that? How many times do you have examples, right? Because something like art, how many of us have to be up here thinking, like, how is it supposed to look? All the questions, mind. And it's so much about, okay, let's let go of control.
So much letting go. Well, and that's why I love the process, because so in art therapy, we look at art on like a continuum. So like process versus directive. So directive would be like, draw this tree with whatever, or this is like the craft we're doing today. But process is very like, see what comes up in your art. So just start with making marks on your page and just see how it unfolds. And that's really Open Studio. It's very much on that end of the continuum. And people are even like, that's even scary for them, because it's like, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. So like, yeah, just start making marks and see what like your subconscious is telling you, or what your intuition wants you to see. And a lot of times I'll start like, this is what I need to explore today. And then my art's like, no, this is what you need to explore today. Right. So, yeah.
And what you're demonstrating is something that I use as a spiritual healer, life coach, those same themes. Can we just be what's there? Can we listen to that inner guidance, witnessing ourselves and letting go of that control, or the judgments?
Yeah.
That's big, I would think, because most of,
and the right and the wrong, and what materials do I need to use,
or how do I use them?
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of what type of people do you like working with, or what type of people would benefit? I guess that's the word. Benefit from joining one of your art groups, and give me an example of what that might look like.
I always struggle to answer this, because I feel like everyone's like, you have to find your niche, like who you want to work with. And in a way I have, but really because I've seen at my last job, like I worked at a partial hospitalization program. So people just had to come to group. It was part of their day. So I saw like all types of people, and everyone got something out of it. And I'm not even just exaggerating, like everyone got something out of the art group. So I really, really believe like everyone can benefit from art and art therapy. I feel like art is a universal language. It's part of like human nature. We've been creating since the beginning of time. So I honestly believe it can be for anyone. Right now I'm working more with young adults and adults, which I like, because a lot of them have been pulled away from the creative process. So I feel like it's so meaningful to help pull them back into it, because we're all creators, right? People are like, I'm not an artist. I'm like, well, you can think that, but I think everyone's an artist. Yes. So like just bringing people back to their creative selves, I think is so healing in itself.
And do you find that even more so in today's world that's so technology driven and maybe a lot of mind driven?
Yes, and product oriented, right? Everything's so product oriented, and like
that's a good point too.
So yes, definitely. And art's been pulled out of so many schools too. So we're seeing it more and more.
Oh, with like budget cuts and things. It's one of those first things that probably goes. When Farron said how that was the best part of her day, and look what it fueled for her whole life, right? And
witnessed the people who have wounds, right? People said, you're not good at that. You're not creative. Or they showed someone and got shot down, right?
Yes.
I've heard in our groups, we've heard numerous stories of how people turned off from their creativity or their own innate artisticness, thinking that they don't have it, or I'm not an artist.
Yeah, there we talk about taking on a limiting belief from somebody else who, forgive them, they did the best they knew how. However, we took it on as a truth, and I witnessed that myself, that I wasn't good enough at the art or whatever. But the more I played with it and just let that emerge, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What's like? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we talk about those limiting beliefs because it's like, even further than art mirrors so much of what's happening in our life. So it's like, if you're not allowing yourself to do something because you're not good at it, you just experienced in this moment that like, oh, I allowed myself to do this, it was fun. Are there other things you're holding yourself back from in life because you're not good at it? So it's like a good practice or warm up for even other things in people's lives.
Yes. Yes.
I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Often to get to that part where it is, maybe scary or vulnerable, or it takes courage to even join and sign up for something, right? So really encouraging people with more of this common theme. How can I start and look at mindfulness and looking at those pillars that we can incorporate that are, just the doorway. It's like crack open the doorway with just a little bit more awareness in our thoughts, right? And the
Yes.
mindfulness and meditative process of art can then open up to like your intuition more.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not ready to go there yet. Maybe you don't yet think that it's like,
Mhm.
it's connected to your soul or your spiritual, or it has answers for you. Maybe you just want to feel a little bit more relaxed for 30 minutes,
Mhm.
right?
Excellent. Yeah, how that can be the exact, whatever each person needs, they can go in at that level, right? So
Yeah.
just sitting there and being more aware, maybe of my breath as I attempt to make a line, right?
Yeah.
Just opening up greater, releasing that control, being vulnerable in a setting. Limiting beliefs. Um, any other? So you came together. You had been dreaming since grad school. You came together, and tell people, what is it? What's the name of your business? How do you reach people? How do people work with you now, especially in today's world post 2020 and the changes we're all in? And tell me
We
about that.
actually, I feel like part of us waited so long because we always thought we would have to have a physical space together. Now,
Ah,
we do need to live
yes,
together or live near each other or
yes.
have this so we can have a space where people walk in the door. But
Mhm.
because of COVID and the
Yes.
pandemic, we actually started with Zoom sessions.
Look at that.
Remarkable.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Another blessing out of something that was perceived as very difficult. And now you can not only reach people in your town, but I believe in your last groups, you've had people even overseas.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Mhm.
okay, so you discovered that, and I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going. What is it that you came together to do?
Yeah. So our name of our I don't even like calling it a company. Our space is called the
Yeah.
SISU Space. So SISU is a Finnish word that
SISU. Yep.
yes, SISU, that can't really fully be translated into English, but it's essentially like having grit and perseverance and courage through adversity. And that's something we as therapists see people do on a daily basis. So we thought with our Finnish background and the meaning of that word, it would just be so perfect to come into this space where everyone's practicing Sisu and building up their Sisu. So that's where we got our name. We're on Instagram
I
right
love that. With my Finnish roots too, we grew up, we called it more Sisu. And I know now that the true pronunciation is Sisu, but we called it, we're hardy people. We have Sisu up here in the long, dark winters. So
Yeah.
beautiful name. Your space is called the Sisu Space. Okay. And
Right now, it's not a physical space. It's a space of people, a community,
Virtual space.
exactly, a virtual place, an energetic cocoon, okay.
Which is so needed right now with like, as much as there's some blessings in the pandemic, there's been so much disconnection. So even if we can connect over Zoom, over a virtual platform, it honestly, and you can say what you think, but I think it's just gone so much better than I even ever expected. If you told me like 2 years ago, like you'll be running groups on Zoom, I'd be like, no, like that would never ever work. So we finished up our last group and it was so beautiful. Like everyone felt so connected. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about that.
Yes. And each person, you don't need any grand supplies or anything. You can join paper and pencils, right?
Okay, that's good for people to know. Thinking, oh, I have to have this investment of all these pastels and markers and colors. No. Okay.
Making. Yep.
Yep.
And yeah, the themes that we said earlier, how sometimes the group just has this like cohesion at moments where you're each working on something independently, but then what one person shares, the other person is reflected, and we're already working on all these similar themes and just witnessing each other. This last group was so powerful.
Wonderful. Can you share any feedback that you got from them? What's common feedback that you two get after having a group?
common feedback is they want the group to keep going is one.
So maybe instead of how long did you do? You can start doing
8 weeks.
It was 8 weeks. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Okay. Mm-hmm.
That people felt way more comfortable than they thought they were going to, that they got way more out of it than they thought that they were going to. I'm trying to think of specifics.
And the lack of having a hierarchy. So in the open studio process, Jordan and I both participate as well. So we do the process and we read our witness writing, we show our art just as all the members do, so they can see that we have human things going on too.
Yeah.
And in traditional therapy, it's like someone goes to the therapist thinking
Think we know it all. The therapist knows it all.
We don't.
We're all humans, ever evolving, ever refining on this journey in this lifetime. So that is comforting. And I've heard that myself from, clients saying, oh, okay, you've processed through that or have, then they trust you more. And that you're sharing that
together.
And we're human too. And we have our own struggles and our own problems, and we're flawed as well. So that was a big thing that came up, because I think people are used to going to groups where it's like, you all share and I'll facilitate and kind of sit back.
Yeah.
But we were very much part of the group, still holding the space for everyone.
Yeah. I like that. And knowing that you both too are constantly enriching, growing, expanding, your own self. So that's a gift, because we're all energetic and beings, with our level of consciousness. And I even believe, our clients can often mirror or reflect areas that we've just worked on or we're still in the process of.
Yeah,
certainly. And so one thing that we are sharing, because our goal with this community and this space is to, invite people in and to just give back as well, and to create this community that people can come to and have a space. So we are starting to offer a monthly SISU community group for free of charge. So it's this monthly group that we're offering via Zoom, and anybody can join.
Wow. Okay. A monthly free group. I offer a monthly free healing. So do send that information to me to share with my community also.
Yeah.
And those of you.
I guess maybe.
Yes, it's.
We passed.
Yeah. This date.
What's that?
So we will have a May one, and we can share. So
okay, beautiful.
On Instagram or want to give their email address to us, then they can join.
And on Instagram, it's the SISU Space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the THESISU.
It's the.sisu.space.
Okay, so you plug that in on Instagram, Facebook.
No,
not on Facebook.
Okay, all right. They will find you on Instagram, and is that also a website yet, or
working on it?
On that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I understand.
Yeah, it'll be a nice space to just list what other classes we have when we get that. But yeah.
Right. Okay. How about, is there anything you want to share about trauma? We're starting in today's world, more people are speaking more about trauma. And like you mentioned how it helped you, Jordan, in college in a trauma. And yet in today's world with the pandemic and the isolation, some people financial, those are all traumas, and that's becoming more mainstream, more understanding. And so have you done anything around that, or does that come forward specifically helping to unwind and heal through traumas?
So specifically in this space yet, we haven't focused specifically on trauma, but I think it probably has been worked through in our space. In the past, I worked a lot with clients with trauma. And so art is very, like I said, art is very, very healing for trauma. So a lot of our trauma responses are from that back to forward processing. And so the art gets right in there with it. So really breaking it up, working through it in a safe space. I think that's the main part of it.
Seems like it'd be a beautiful place for that. I know specifically, having had in some of my research, with my husband dying young, with my kids young, I remember hearing back then, have kids, draw pictures or write about it. And every one of my children actually ended up writing beautiful English papers. Journaling is a form too, of getting to those spaces. And that was one of my big ones through my trauma was, all of that. And
Mhm.
so that's anybody that's going through any griefs and losses.
Grief and loss
Yeah.
is a great way to come together with people. Even in the groups we did have, a lot of that was a part of the theme
Big theme.
already. It just
Mhm.
came up.
Okay, I wondered if that, if that just was evolved to it, or if you offer any specifics on it. I'm sure it is.
Do.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
do want to have specifically a grief and loss groups and many themes like this to help people that might want to come specifically for those reasons. But
Mhm.
otherwise, in other groups, it's what you are ready to work on as well for
Mhm.
yourself. So
Yep, whatever each person feels called to bring forward at that time.
And our mindfulness group is a really good, like, I would say, like, not beginners, but like entryway into it, because a lot of stuff with trauma keeps us in the past or like brings us into our like anxiety brain. So using the mindfulness skills helps us bring us back to the present moment and helps us tap back into our intuition again, into feeling safe in our bodies. So the mindfulness group is a really good foundation to lead into these other groups that might go a little bit deeper, because it gives you a little bit more skills to sit with it.
Beautiful. And is that the group that you did the 8 weeks? Was
Yeah.
the mindfulness, the pillars? Okay. Yeah. So you've both had a lot of training in that, and that is a beautiful way for people that are maybe new to it, to any healing. Okay. And I would assume in today's world too, I see a lot of clients with anxiety.
Yes.
oh yes,
Yes.
lots.
Especially
Yes.
with the pandemic too.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I
And
would say
that is
almost everybody's gonna have a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
right, right. And in what I help people with anxiety is starting to understand, well, that's a split in us, right? Between our true self, our
Mhm.
infinite, divine, timeless, whatever word works for each person, and where the mind is at. And that mind, like you mentioned with traumas, Jordan, right? The mind is so often in the past, and we're holding on to things, or we're worried about the future. Anxiety
Yeah.
is so often worried about the future. And how can we bring into this present moment, through the different mindfulness practices and aspects, and then perhaps maybe there's even ways to make it more fun to do it, to bring that forward. I know there's a lot of things I've seen about healing the inner child through art, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
fun.
and
Yeah.
that's another like cornerstone of my practice, is getting people to find that aspect in them, because when our mind is so active, our egos are being fueled by the unhealed inner child.
Mhm.
And so, what are the ways we access that aspect? And I would think,
Mhm.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can connect and tap into your inner child through art. That's a powerful, and I
Mhm.
enjoy using that with my one-on-one clients a lot already.
Mhm.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I had seen somewhere about writing with the non-dominant hand to access. Is
Yeah.
that something to that? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think when one of our pillars we go over is beginner's mind, and this is adapted from John Kabat-Zinn. And
Ah,
beginner's mind is so much about like when you look at a child pick up a crayon, they just start like making marks. They don't care what it looks like. So
yeah.
using your non-dominant hand, you don't have as much expectation on it. So it helps you get to that place a little bit quicker. So yeah, even just playing, experimenting with materials is a way to tap back into that inner child. Maybe that inner child that didn't get to play, or didn't get to do art, or was told they were bad at art. So that could be really healing too for the inner
Expressing
child.
themselves, so many didn't feel heard,
Yeah.
seen, that all those aspects can be addressed by
Mhm.
someone in your groups or your
It
session.
naturally it came up as a theme as well in a week during our 8-week group was the inner child. And
Mhm.
it's just that it's the beginner's mind, and noticing, if I think back, what did I enjoy doing as a 4-year-old, as a 5-year-old, that I stopped myself from, and
Yes.
people left that session contemplating, what can I incorporate into my life that was my inner
Mhm.
child again. So
Oh,
fun.
I,
Mhm.
I'm I love hearing that, because as that inner child gets whatever it is they did not then, whether it was safe to be heard, safe to be seen, um, to be able to, yeah, be more free, whatever, then that healed inner aspect of us, that inner child, helps us be so present, right? And that creative energy can flow like theirs do, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
and joyous. And I like their curiosity.
Yes.
Curiosity.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that about everything, because they're so present, and so they're I love to see any other aspects of inner child, because I know every one of my clients, myself, it's been a big piece of my journey, and
Yeah.
that's coming up in your.
Mhm.
It is.
I would say our next group will probably tap into that a lot because we're doing one on inner
Mhm.
critic and self-compassion. And self-compassion is really about reparenting that stress response in a different way, not being critical of yourself, but being kind and gentle. And we're going to explore that through a little education and then a lot of art making. So I think that'll tap into
That
the
sounds,
inner child work as well.
yes, that sounds powerful. How many of us couldn't use some of that, right? Extra, yeah, that self-compassion. How, we can't have that for other people truly if we don't have it for ourselves. And this is the way that we're going to help create change in the world, is each one of us within ourselves, healing that inner child, being more present, less of that critic and the judger, and to be free and happy. Everybody benefits. I love it. So what's the biggest lesson or growth that you would say you've gained through this journey of that service as an art therapist, each of you?
I'm gonna let you go first on that one.
I feel like my own journey, as well as when I work with others, is just that self-trust versus doubt, right? And
Huge. Yes.
all of like the winding path, even from when you graduate to these different jobs you hold and to the different spaces you find yourself in, to the different populations and clients and individual situations. Some of them were challenging in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet they were still so powerful. And to trust that, like you said earlier, there's those little pieces and you're meant to be with those people. Yes. And for that moment, and how it's just then led for a foundation into greater awareness to just wanting to help more people. That's the aim of our space as well, is to not have it be clinical, not have it be you need a diagnosis, you don't have to have a therapist.
Dropping labels like that.
It's open and everyone can benefit. So it's trusting that and really following.
Beautiful. Jordan, what do you?
I think the thing that there's so much that this journey has brought me on. I think the biggest thing that's coming to my mind right now is that we are all so much more alike than different. And I feel like because I've literally, Farron and I sat down, calculated how many groups and people we've seen over the past 8, 9, 10 years. And I've run thousands of art therapy groups, which was mind blowing to me. But that also means I got so many people making art. And in those sessions, we had, like I said, all different types of people. And I was like, wow, we're really all more alike than different. And I just wish people would start seeing that. And I think it would help with a lot of empathy for other people, that we're all in this together. And I think that's also why we really want our space to be really group heavy, so people can start seeing that. Because I feel blessed that I've gotten to witness that.
We call that oneness, right? That's the ultimate. Yep. See the oneness.
Yeah.
Oneness talk. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And yes, and we all need connection, support.
You don't have to be alone.
Right. Yes, that's very, very true. So is it any different? So if there was a younger, say a teen right now, what advice would you give them? They're feeling, oh my gosh, wondering, should I join you guys? I don't know what I want. I'm mixed up in life.
Yes, join us.
Yes.
We'd love to have you. Teenage years are hard, and I can't even imagine what teenagers are going through right now. I almost feel lucky where I'm at in life with where the pandemic fell. So yes, I don't navigating the world as a teenager without the pandemic is difficult, trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. So yeah, come join an art group, be vulnerable, connect with other teens. That's very general, but I don't know if there's more to say.
And I've seen so far with the teenagers that I really enjoy working with, just that moment even of coming back into any mindfulness, right? And the art, because sometimes in the developing mind, it's just, there's so much, right? Everything's so extreme, or, the anxiety or the challenges, they just are a little bit more heightened sometimes. And so coming back just to the art material and really focusing in that moment on grounding practices, just to ground back into their body.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot, yes, in today's world, distractions.
Yes.
You know, a lot of, and we talk about in the yoga of self-suggestion, you know, the planetary thought body, you know, all that fear is out there and we're swimming in it. And then ways, how can we disconnect from that? I mean, I heard somebody recently say it's almost like an addiction to fear. And, you know, that's constantly there. And so I'm, you know, offering spaces like this that are safe, they're recognized, they're heard. I would love to see more teens embrace and find their way to places like yours. And so there's another group too, right? Okay, just teens.
Just
Right?
young adults, yeah.
Yes, young adults, yes. Because like you said, so anybody can really benefit, and yet we find these little niches of specific groups. Perhaps the one I took was about intuition, right? Connecting deeper to our intuition, which you very much did. I have a question here that I really like too. It's similar to that, but is there a piece of wisdom or advice anyone has given you that meant more than others? So to get to where you are, can you think of anything that somebody had said that, you know, in the positive? Because we talk about how we tend to remember the negative. And I've even heard that our brain tends to attach more to negative. It's just like a natural aspect of it or whatever. And yet it's like, is there any piece of advice that really kind of stands out that helped you? You know, and I can, for me, a dear mentor, there's two things that he has said that go in my mind a few times. And one was, when is enough enough? You know, like if I'm going through, you know, a pattern and all of a sudden you're going, okay, you know, whether it's thinking of not enough of this or whatever. When is enough, Patty? Oh, yeah, you're right. This is one of those instances. But then another one is that no matter what, you are enough.
Yes.
You know, so those two themes, you know, come to me as, and there's boatloads of it from other teachers and mentors, but often, you know, just, so anything come to mind for either of you?
I think one that we use a lot at my last job that someone else, I forget who, but someone at my last job, we always say worth at birth. So you're never worthless. Like you have worth at birth and that's a constant.
Yes, worth at birth.
Worth at birth. And then my own therapist said to me one day, she's like, Jordan, what if it were simple? And I was like, I don't know why, that just like blew my mind. I'm like, yeah, what if it were simple? Like, am I overcomplicating all of this? And that's what we do as humans. We overcomplicate.
Yes, the mind likes
so much. So that's like, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, what if it were simple? And then I think about, how do I go back to the basics? How do I make this more simple for myself? And then that, I've already brought this up, but that we're all artists, we're all creators. And sometimes we just get, creativity is a habit. And sometimes we just get out of habit.
Ah, beautiful.
It's like a Chase Jarvis or Brene Brown quote. I forget, but.
Okay, I like that.
During this journey, and especially starting this and going through systems that are clinical, or like our education system and our medical system, right? Being in spaces that feel like you're a star trying to fit into a circle.
Yes.
That has been so powerful for me when a mentor said, don't shave off all your edges to fit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
It happens for us in our field.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a very powerful one. Yep.
Yeah.
I like those. And any other things you want to bring forward about what you're doing? I think you did mention you're doing a full moon group.
Yes. Yeah, I think
it's gonna happen, I think,
right before this
airs. So that'll be April 26th.
Our full moon was yesterday, and we are recording and we are airing on Wednesday. So is this the first time you're doing full moon? Do you plan to do it now into the next months? Or
this will be the first like community art group. So we'll have to see. We don't know if we'll be like the first Tuesday of every month. We have to kind of figure that out, or it might just be different every month. So you can get on our email list or follow us on our Instagram, and we'll have updates for when our May one is. Mhm.
Okay, beautiful. And so what I wanted to bring forward is there's many different avenues that might call to different people, right? As far as what you're offering and doing there. So I like that. And as we close here, how people reach you, any other things you wanted to get out there and share? What if there's somebody young that wants to get into that field? Any advice?
Yeah. I mean, we're always open for conversations too. If anyone wants to reach out to us. Yeah, if you have any questions, if if it's something you want to do, I'd say go for it. It's so powerful. We need more art therapists out there. So,
Because as you mentioned, there's so many different areas. You both, in hospital settings, community health.
schools,
community
yeah.
mental health, foster homes,
social justice stuff.
I think it's just going to keep growing. I feel that our field has more and more power when people realize that it's just starting to. It's only been born in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like that's still pretty new.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. I guess that's all I had written down as far as little notes, and I will be here answering people in the chat as this airs. And go to Instagram to the SISU Space. Is there an email?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the.sisu.space@gmail.com.
Okay, there's their email, and we will have that in the links. If you just have a question, and like you said, you do welcome inquiries and questions, and I too, as a healer, offer 15-minute free consultations if people don't quite know how I may be able to serve them. And so I wanted to put that out there in my link. Just send, and you can find me, Patty Markham Peterson, on Instagram, Expanding Hearts on Facebook, my Wizio, Patty Markham Peterson. That's where people can get short, one question, intuitive healer responses in a fairly short order. They get responded to in a couple days. So it's another great avenue for people to.
Yeah, it's a good one to have out there.
Yes, it is. And then please join my YouTube, Patty Markham Peterson. I have lots of practices there for people, from aligning our chakras to healing our hearts. I have an inner child practice, a guided visualization that I know has been very helpful. I learned through my training. And so thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This is great.
I'm Peterson and Jordan Burma, and I'm Patty Markham Peterson. And thank you for joining Light, Laughter, and Lattes.
Thank you.
Mary Hab Street next Wednesday.